games. It's just when they execute, when they're working, the stuff they're working on in practice, they're able to do in games, and then exercise and being active. Those are top 5. The funny thing is, in Matavistics research, in the bottom half of the reasons, winning comes up as 48th. So there's 47 other reasons why it's fun. And try to convince coaches, there are 47 other reasons, all the things they want. But the right at the bottom third are things that are really prevalent today. Travel, tournaments, getting trophies are in the bottom third. They're like 66, like from 66 to like 78. Yet that's the big focus of youth sports today. And the least fun activity we all joke about is getting your pictures taken. Like I played probably on about 50 organized teams over my youth sport experience. I hated that. I hated getting pictures taken. I just thought it was an exercise of utility. So somehow, some way, like with my 2 midget teams, the 2 oldest age groups in hockey, I basically said to the boys, however you guys want to dress, but you just do it as a team. So one year, the kids decided they wanted to wear PJs. Another year, they decided they wanted to wear their jerseys, but with PJs underneath. It was quite funny. And they, these kids, it's their journey. That's what I tell every coach. You're just a facilitator. It's just like you're a teacher. You're facilitating their journey. And if you dictate, that's when you lose them. As soon as you start empowering them and you start asking them questions, that's when the things change.
Yeah, and you talk about the journey, and I started listening to a new book today. It's Joseph Campbell. It's a series of interviews, and he is famous for the myth, about myths, the power of myths, and he writes about the hero and how it's just over the centuries all around the world, the power of the hero. And he talks about one of the most heroic things anybody does is they just grow up. It was that simple. He said if you look at it, just getting older from 10 or 12 to 15 or 16, to go through that is a heroic journey. So they don't need us to throw any more challenges in there. They don't need any angry gods making it more difficult for them in their pursuit. But that's what sport is. And I had a guest, one of my earlier guests, Rick Jarrow, talked about how sports is how we bring kids into our society. That is the interaction. They're not out hunting and chasing down dinner and survival skills like it had been, some time ago. So it is going to be through sports, that type of learning to survive in a certain environment, not literally survive, but how do you, get through this? And when we make it truly damaging, when you don't succeed, it's I don't think they feel like heroes. I think they feel like they're just being hunted the whole time. And I heard that today, and it was very very timely as I was thinking about some of the things you and I would talk about. I hadn't thought about that. That just the act of growing up, which is what we just can't get in the way of. We're there to help it, but once we hijack it, we've taken away something it's been theirs. We didn't need to give them a better trip. It happens whether they like it or not.
Yeah, and it depends on how it happens too, right? If it's a positive experience, then all the good things that come out of sports. But if it's a negative experience and they quit early, to me, that 5-year shorter lifespan is because of the 5 years shorter playing sports. Because most kids, when I grew up, if they played, we played a lot more sports than the 1 or 1.9, I think is the average now. We were probably 3 sports a year, maybe 4 sports a year, plus all the free play. But if you look at the path that we did when we grew up, almost everybody I knew that was in the sports path, we played right till high school, and many of us would play beyond high school, whether it be collegiate or junior or what have you. Today's youth, if they're quitting at 13, they're losing the 5 years of sport. And that 5 years is equating to a 5-year shorter lifespan. It's kind of ironic, but to me, that path should be a positive one, and it's not for many kids. And that's the red flag. When you have 70% that are quitting, that's a major red flag. That's the epitome of, if you have a corporation, you run a corporation, and you have 70% attrition of your staff, you don't have a corporation for much longer. And that's how bad it's got. Like, there's a guy in Australia, Wayne Goldsmith, who's brilliant, and he says youth sports is dead. And we have to figure out how to re-explore and recreate it, because it's not what it was, and it'll never get back to the pre-internet, the pre-digital era. But somehow, some way, I think the biggest challenge that youth sports organizations face today is they got to start asking kids what they want from the experience. They're not doing that. They're just telling them what to do.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, this is what you want. This is this outcome is what you desire. And I just, from my coaching, you always kept in the bag, and the sport I coach was lacrosse. You keep a Frisbee, a mini soccer ball, and a football in the bag. And like, why? Because sometimes they just want to run around and chase a ball. Yeah. And to be honest, the ones that bounce around, which is why, kids can't throw a Frisbee straight. So, and it hits the ground and it's running around like a dog off its leash. They have more fun chasing it and missing it because they're all part of it. Yeah. And you can actually work in speed, agility, heads up, all those things that you want, all those reactions, you can turn that into a very athletic experience. One of the things I did want to bring up too is, you talk about kids dropping out and the lifespan of 5 years. I think for those who think this is a health issue, and well, why can't they just have better, habits? Well, part of a longer lifespan has been proven to be you have a better outlook on things. It's not. I can tell you right now, I am not in a good sports shape. Okay, but I can tell you that but my outlook is very strong because of what I got from that. How I go about my day at work, the day job, how I get through it happily, dealing with a lot of difficult things, but not getting frustrated, not saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe it's only Tuesday. I got to get to Friday at 5." That'll shorten your life. If that's what you're thinking every day because you had, the wrong experience of what competing, persevering is, that translates horribly into the workplace, and that's what's shortening your life. It's not because you're not getting enough running in. Okay, there's enough running around that goes on. It's going to be from the outlook. That's and the information, the data out there, it does support that. So let's talk about, you've talked about some of the specialization, but you've also, you've got some classes or courses on, there's excellence and there's early specialization, and the pros and the cons of those, because we all hear about, well, you got to play year round or just keep that kid at that position. How is that affecting, again, how they're having fun, and how that can be one way you can be a kid's last coach?
Yeah, it's funny. I just watched a very short clip. It was an interview with a athletic director who was doing his doctor's dissertation, and he interviewed collegiate students to get their spin on youth sports. He said, he didn't want to go to the professionals because they were already playing pro. He didn't want to talk to the 5 to 10-year-olds because they were in the path, but he wanted to get a sense from these, varsity athletes, and he asked them a bunch of questions. And one of the questions that he talked about is, did you specialize in your youth, and or did you play multiple sports? And all of them said they played multiple sports, and many of them, and almost every study I come across when this question is posed, regret they didn't play more. They didn't play more sports, or they started specializing too early. So use some extremes. That's actually going to come up in my talk next week. The origins of specialization I have yet to find. I have yet to find the actual concrete date of when it started, but my theory is the whole concept of specialization kind of started with Tiger Woods. If you look back 40 years ago, And that Bob Hope photo when he was putting with Bob Hope, and then 5 years, that great golf swing, and then he dominated the amateurs and the way he dominated out of the gate. 21 years old, he's minus, 18 strokes in the Masters, and they had to tiger-proof all the courses first 10 years. But look at what happened to his body from that point going forward. Once he got into his late 20s and 30s, it was constant Achilles, left knee, back issues, left surgery, so after surgery. And his most recent one was a 15-month hiatus from the PGA Tour because the back's using surgery, all because of the torque of that swing. That's all he did from 5 years old all the way through. Then you look at an athlete like Jordan Spieth, who was the total reverse, multi-sport athlete. Parents at 12 years old, he actually approached him and said, he wanted to specialize in golf. And they both said, no, you're going to play a whole bunch of different sports. We want you to become an athlete, a team player. There's a lot of lessons you're going to get from playing on teams and so forth. But the positions that he played in team sports, to show you how good an athlete he was a quarterback in football. He was a pitcher in baseball. He was a point guard in basketball, and he was also golfing. And he didn't decide to specialize until after he graduated from high school, which is what the path that every athlete should be following. Wait until you're a senior, then decide what you're going to specialize in. Then look at what happened at 20 after he graduated from university. At 22 years old, he became the $23 million man. He wins the FedEx Cup. He wins a whole bunch of events. He's already won, I think, 14 PGA events, 3 majors. I guarantee that when he is in his 30s and 40s, he is not going to have the same physical issues that Tiger Woods has had because of having that opportunity to be a multi-sport athlete, and the emphasis on the word athlete throughout his youth all the way through until he became where he is now. Another example that I just came across, it's a really new study. It was just done by Oakland Children's Hospital. They studied NBA players. And I think there was 237 NBA players in the study. And they basically were curious if they were a multi-sport athlete in high school or if they were just specializing in basketball in high school. And those that were specializing, when they analyzed in the NBA, suffered 10 times more injuries than the multi-sport athletes. And the multi-sport ones in the NBA had longer playing careers. So if that in itself doesn't prove that the science supports multi-sport, I don't know what is. And then any collegiate athlete that regrets not being able to play multiple sports in their youth, it's just the wrong path to go. And that is a module that we have. Like, I could talk about this for an hour. Like, there's so many different examples out there of the benefits of multi-sport, but the downside is the early specialization is one of the contributors why kids are quitting. They're burning out. If you think and the sad thing is they're starting as early as 6 and 7 years old. It's not at 12 and 13, 14. I did a couple of talks for Alberta Lacrosse last year, and they shared with me a retention report that they had put together from surveys. They surveyed parents because they were concerned about their attrition rate. They had lost 11,000 players over the course of 3 years in lacrosse. So they're really concerned, what's going on. And about 10% of the families that had quit and left lacrosse filled out a survey. Top 3 reasons why they were quitting. One of them, the first one, was because they were focusing on another sport. And I was like, oh, are you kidding me? And what really blew my mind is they're focusing on hockey at 7 years old, 33% of the respondents. And I was just like, oh my God, it's supported by the data. And this was just like last year. I'm like, this is insane. So it's just something that we really need to address, because otherwise the amount of injuries that are continuing to escalate, the burnout is escalating, and then there's that whole lack of physical or just fundamental movement skills. You said with your lacrosse team, you had them play with different balls and throw the ball around, chase a frisbee, all that kind of stuff. Hockey teams, because they're specializing so early, a lot of kids can't kick a soccer ball. They can't play catch with a baseball. They can't hit a baseball with a baseball bat, because all they're accustomed to doing is playing hockey 12 months of the year. So what happens when they...
That's crazy. In fact, I've told my daughter, said there's 3 things you need to do for sports. I said, you know how to shoot a hoop, hit a softball, and